Hi, this is Shavik, and today's topic is what is the role of a Scrum Master in sprint planning? So let's first understand what is sprint planning, right? So sprint planning is one of the Scrum events that occurs on the first day of the new sprint. So sprint planning initiates the sprint by laying out what work need to be performed for the sprint. This resulting plan is created by collaborative work of the entire Scrum team. The team focus on agreeing upon a sprint goal, the amount of work that the team believes it can complete during the sprint, and the product owner, the Scrum Master, and everyone from the dev team, all need to be present during the planning meeting. So now coming back to the topic, what is the role of a Scrum Master in sprint planning? Okay, so let's divide it in three parts. What the Scrum Master does at the before the planning, and during the planning, and maybe after the planning. So before sprint planning, Scrum Master must plan to facilitate the backlog refinement. You know, Scrum Master makes sure that the product owner has prepared all the items in the backlog. The product owner should understand the details on each item so that they can explain or clarify any questions that the rest of the team might bring up during the refinement meeting. It ensures that the backlog is healthy and the team has to prioritize each work item with the most important work listed at the top. It will also make sure that the team has shared understanding about the work and they have fully formed user stories to start working on it. It also makes sure that all the user stories have an up-to-date estimates before getting into the planning meeting. Yeah. Sometimes there will be instances when the team don't have enough details to estimate, or they need more contextual information from the product owner. There can be anything, like some technical uncertainty or business uncertainty. So that's the beauty of having this refinement in advance. Those gaps can be filled before planning so that there are not any blockers or any time wasters during the actual sprint planning. Thus, refining the backlog beforehand gives the team more time during the sprint planning to consider, their options for the sprint and set aside the items for the next sprint as well and as needed, right? So, yeah. Now coming to the second part, the actual sprint planning meeting. So what the Scrum Master should do, what is the Scrum Master's role here? So Scrum Master should make sure that there is a standing consistent time block for the sprint planning so that the team can keep this time slot clear from other engagements. So the best thing that a Scrum Master can do is set a recurring meeting invite for maybe the whole year at the start, or maybe if he's aware of how long the project will go or may run, he can set it up for that time frame at the same time. Yeah. And Scrum Master typically facilitates the sprint planning, in order to ensure that the discussions is effective and there is an agreement to the sprint goal and that the appropriate product backlog items are included in the sprint backlog. Yeah. So at the start of the meeting, the Scrum Master can share any relevant action items from the team's retrospective, which was concluded for the last sprint. So now Scrum Master also discuss any issues or concerns from the last sprint so that the team can avoid the same situation in the upcoming sprint, and if needed, they can come together to figure out a feasible solution. Yeah. And next is the product owner gives the product or the market updates so that everyone in the team is on the same page and has a broader context towards the product goal, fresh in their minds before getting into the real planning. Then the Scrum Master can start the actual planning conversation. So first, what he will do is, he or she will do is, they will consider the team's available capacity for the upcoming sprint. So Scrum Master will take in account of all the public holidays, the personal leaves, the trainings, or some team-wide events, whatever it is. So he will consider all of that and come up with what is the available capacity of the team for the next sprint. Then coming to the next step. So the next step is the sprint planning. So sprint planning is to walk through the stories which are already estimated during the refinement. The team discuss what work is required to complete each of the story. They break it down into the task level, so all those things happen. Teams select items from the product backlog to include in the current sprint. So there can be a chance that PO can bring in some new stories as well. So how does that happen? Suppose take a scenario that the time between you completed your refinement and before you start your planning, something important came up, and that's need to be taken up in the sprint. So it can happen. For example, some security certificate is going to get expired, which the PO hasn't thought of earlier, and it has to be taken up, because if the team doesn't take it up, then this product may stop working, the software may stop working in the production, right? So PO can bring up some news stories as well. So what the Scrum team can do here is they can refine these items as well during the process, which increases the understanding and the confidence of the team. And as the team plans, Scrum Master makes sure that he or someone within the team is capturing all these key points. Maybe he can jot down the points directly into the PVIs. So that way, both the decision and the rationals are easy to see later at any point of the time, right? So that's it. Yeah. Yeah, there can be a chance that the team thinks it is unnecessary to discuss at the same stories again and again, right? It can happen because they have discussed the same story while estimating in the refinement, and again they are discussing the same stories in during the planning. Yeah. So but so it's job of Scrum Master, right, to make them understand why it is important. It is important that everyone is on the same page and understand the requirement or the value the story is going to deliver. I'll share a story here. Let's say you invited your office friends at your home for a dinner party. Okay, so you want to serve them your famous curry, and you are looking for a cozy home cooked food that you know that your guest will love. So somehow, on the day when the guests are supposed to come, that evening you are caught up with something else, and you don't have time to do shopping, buy the ingredients, or even for the cooking. So what you do? So what you do is you ask your family members, to get the meal ready. So they happily agreed, excited to try out a new recipe, right? So what happened here is, uh, what was not taken into account here is what kind of curry. Yeah. So you entice your friends, say your office colleagues, with the promise of nice classic Indian curry filled with spices and aromas to die for. But at the same time, your family member is proud to show off their cooking skills with a beautiful Thai curry with creamy coconut milk and maybe the flavors of kaffir lime and lemongrass. So when the dinner is served, everyone is disappointed, right? The cook does not receive any compliments that they are expecting. You have made promises that were not on target, and your office friends are not getting the home cooked Indian curry that their taste buds were salivating for. So as you see, it is very important for the Scrum Master to ensure that everyone in the team is on the same page. Yeah, hope I am making sense, right? So next, the whole Scrum team. So after the next step here is, the next, the whole Scrum team then collaborates to define a sprint goal that communicates why the sprint is valuable to the stakeholders. The sprint goal must be finalized prior to the end of the sprint planning. So uh, one more thing to notice here is that sometimes the PO tend to tell the team on how to do the work. A Scrum Master should make sure that such anti-patterns are avoided amicably. And let me give you an example here. So imagine you are going to office, okay, and while going, you look at your shoes, and you decided that they need some shine. They look very dull. So you stop at a shoe stand and have your shoes shined. Yeah. So do you count how many left stroke the shoe shiner performs, or how many right strokes, or whether he uses a cloth to polish your shoes, or a brush, or what order he uses them in, right? No, of course not, right? We don't observe this nitty-gritties of what that person is doing. All you care about is that the shoes are shiny when he's done. He's more likely to do a great job if left alone to do it. He's the expert. He's the expert in that. So trust him and do not dictate the how part, right? The how part, how he should shine the shoes. In the same way, Scrum Masters need to coach the PO to not dictate to the dev team how they do their work. Encourage him to collaborate with the dev team, to trust them to deliver the finished work at the end of the sprint. Yeah. Okay, so moving on, the Scrum Master also reminds the team about their past velocity, or in case the team is not maintaining velocity, maybe the amount of work the team had delivered in the past. So Scrum Master also asks for a verbal approval from everyone in the team about what they're actually committing to complete by the end of the sprint. He makes sure that no one is overcommitted, or no one is undercommitted, or they are having too much of idle time. So just a pulse check that a scrum master can perform, before closing the sprint planning. And yeah, Scrum Master also makes sure that each team member has at least one task at the start, and nobody is duplicating work. Scrum Master should also make sure that the team is not overcommitting, or PO is not pushing the team to commit for work more than the team's available capacity, or their average velocity. Let me give you one more example. So let us understand it like this. Suppose the sprint is like a drinking glass, okay, and the team's capacity is the volume that the glass can hold, and the liquid, maybe you can take water. Water is the amount of work. So if you pour more water into the glass than the glass can hold, then the water will overspill, right? Same way, if the team is pushed to take more than the sprint can hold, or the capacity can hold, you will end up with the same amount of water that the glass can hold, but also there will be a mess to deal with, right? So Scrum Master should coach and make the team realize that how much the team can complete in the sprint and prioritize is to complete in the sprint, and they can plan it accordingly and prioritize accordingly. Yeah. So yeah, at times I also observed the team wants to end the planning meeting soon. So team don't understand that the good planning pays numerous dividends once the sprint ends. So Scrum Master should also show the importance of having a good planning meeting. Scrum Master need to make sure that everyone is heard, so that the team feels a sense of ownership once the plan is on the place, right? Mm. So now coming to the, yeah, I think I have explained a lot for the second part. So now coming to the third and the last part, the Scrum Master's role at the after the sprint planning. So what should the Scrum Master do? The first thing which normally I do as a Scrum Master is I communicate the sprint goal with the business and the stakeholders. So they expect what to, so they know what to expect at the end of the sprint. What else I can do? So the Scrum Master, they should also check with the team during the daily Scrum over the sprint on the progress towards the sprint goal. Help the team to identify who is working on what, who has challenges, who needs help, who can team up, to tackle certain items, and what if there are any impediments or not. How if there is a way I can help to resolve that impediment, or who else can resolve that impediment. So these will keep the whole team on the same page and on track to meet the goals, right? And at the background, the Scrum Master should also work with the PO to make sure that the product backlog is ordered, so that a team can see what coming next in the next sprint, and if anyone has capacity, some available capacity in the current sprint itself, what to take next. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that was quite a long explanation, but I hope it makes sense for everyone. So I'll quickly like to sum it up by highlighting the main benefit of sprint planning. That is, it is it that is it allows a team to start a new sprint with a shared understanding of what they will work on for that sprint, as well as an initial plan for how they approach the work. Yeah. Okay, thanks for listening. Have a good day. Bye. Cheers.